From a humble Polish village to the heart of a Calabrian mafia, the unbelievable story of Edyta Kaczyńska. How is it possible that a young woman from a small Polish village could rise to become the leader of one of Calabria's most formidable mafia clans? This is the astonishing true story of Edyta Kaczyńska, the only Polish woman ever legally convicted by an Italian court for her mafia ties. Her life, a turbulent mix of ambition, love and crime, reads like an epic mafia saga. Edyta Kaczyńska was born in Ulhówek, a modest settlement in the Lublin voivodeship near Poland's Ukrainian border. Her acquaintances remember her as not only attractive but also as a determined and spirited teenager. Growing up in a small village where opportunities were scarce, she faced the economic hardships that plagued the region. At the end of high school, during the turbulent transition between the late 1990s and early 2000s, she made the life-changing decision to leave her native land. At that time, Poland was experiencing massive labor migration, driven by soaring unemployment and the lure of better prospects abroad. Encouraged by her half-brother, who had already seen success overseas, Edyta ventured into Italy as a nanny. What began as a temporary solution to financial difficulties quickly evolved into an entirely unexpected journey into the world of organized crime. Shortly after arriving in Italy, Edyta's fate took an unforeseen turn. Within a few years, she was no longer just a nanny, but had become an integral part of one of the most notorious criminal organizations in Calabria. She entered the Bruni clan, a dominant force among the criminal groups operating in the region, and soon, her life was irrevocably intertwined with the dark world of the Mafia. It was during the early 2000s, while she was living in Calabria, that Edyta's destiny shifted dramatically. In a chance meeting, she encountered Bruni, an influential mafia boss known as the Ndrangheta of the clan. Their meeting occurred on a December evening in 2002 in Kenza, a small town where the mafia's influence was palpable. Edyta first saw him in a bar opposite the main post office, which was run by his sister Francesca Marone. That very day, an immediate spark ignited between them, and a passionate romance ensued. This relationship would span nearly a decade, surviving the intense pressures of the criminal world until Mel's tragic death on June 20, 2011. Edyta's integration into the mafia world was extraordinary. In a society where membership is traditionally determined by blood and heritage, her entry into the Bruni clan was achieved through a different route: marriage. The mafia in Calabria is a closed world, where one is either born into it or enters via a sanctioned union with a member of the family. In Edyta's case, her marriage to Michele Bruni, the son of the late Michele Francesco, nicknamed Bella Bella, served as her gateway into this secretive organization. Michele, who inherited leadership of the clan after his father was killed by rival factions, was already a powerful figure. The union between him and Edyta forged a partnership that would soon see her rise through the ranks. Once inside, Edyta did not remain a passive spouse. Her talent for navigating the murky waters of mafia business became evident quickly. By mastering the local dialect and immersing herself in the operational intricacies of the clan, she transformed into not only a trusted consort but also an indispensable operator. When Michele was absent due to imprisonment or police detentions, Edyta effectively became the regent of the clan. She managed day-to-day operations, distributed salaries, and served as the crucial liaison between her husband and other mafia associates. Rumors soon spread that she oversaw a force of over 100 mafioso soldiers at the peak of her power, a feat nearly unimaginable for someone who had begun her journey as a simple nanny. To fully understand Edyta's meteoric rise, one must delve into the nature of the organization she joined. The Calabrian Mafia, often referred to as Ndrangheta, emerged alongside other infamous Italian criminal networks but has always maintained a distinct identity. Unlike the Sicilian Mafia, the Ndrangheta was founded on the principle of blood ties. Membership in this organization is not something that can be earned from the outside. It is an intrinsic part of one's birth and family connections. The only way for an outsider to become part of the Ndrangheta is through marriage, a fact that both minimized the risk of betrayal and ensured complete loyalty from within. For decades, the Ndrangheta's activities were confined to rural areas of Calabria. It was not until the mid-1970s that the organization began to extend its influence outside its traditional territories. The Calabrians, keen on avoiding the public spotlight that characterized the Sicilian Mafia's bloody wars with the state, focused on expanding their criminal enterprises quietly. This low profile allowed them to dominate criminal activities in Italy during the early 20th century without drawing excessive attention from law enforcement. The organizational structure of the Ndrangheta is complex. It is not a monolithic entity but rather a confederation of semi-autonomous groups, each responsible for a specific district, city, or region. These groups, known as Drine, are loyal only to their local boss, known as the Key Bastone. At times several Drine are merged to form larger units referred to as locale, yet no unified central command has ever fully emerged. Attempts to create a centralized authority were met with resistance as the Calabrians deeply valued their independence and feared that a consolidated leadership might incite internal conflicts. The Bruni clan, which Edyta joined through marriage, was a major player within this vast underworld. Founded in the early 1990s by Michele Francesco, affectionately known as Bella Bella, the clan's influence grew rapidly in the wake of police crackdowns that dismantled other local gangs. With their newfound power, the Brunis quickly took control of critical territories in the region, monopolizing lucrative criminal activities such as drug trafficking, armored convoy robberies, and extortion. Edyta's role within the clan evolved alongside its ambitions. Once merely an outsider from Poland, she became a central figure, involved not only in managing the clan's operations, but also in forging alliances. In 2003, when Mikkel decided to establish a close partnership with local Roma groups to bolster the number of soldiers in the organization, Edyta played an essential role in the delicate negotiations. Although there was initial resistance, many senior members had long mistrusted the Roma due to deep-seated prejudices. Long discussions eventually paved the way for an alliance. This union was designed to combine the strengths of both groups, primarily targeting armored vehicles carrying vast shipments of heroin purchased from the Reggio di Calabria province. As the years passed, Edyta emerged as a trusted advisor and confidant, not only to her husband, but also to the entire organization. Her deep knowledge of the clan's operations allowed her to control the flow of money, often using ingenious methods to hide cash transfers. For instance, during prison visits, Mikkel would hand her messages concealed in everyday items like wrappers from chocolate bars or packets of tea biscuits. Such creative methods ensured that the organization's illicit funds continued to circulate without attracting unwanted attention. Yet even as Edyta's influence soared, the nature of mafia life ensured that betrayal and treachery were never far away. In 2010, Italian law enforcement struck a heavy blow to the Bruni clan, decimating one of Calabria's most potent criminal families. That same year, the world learned of Edyta's involvement when the Italian police publicly dismantled the Bruni organization. Her role was highlighted as one of the most critical within the clan, and her subsequent arrest sent shockwaves through both the criminal underworld and the general public. Despite her efforts to protect the organization and maintain its operations, the collapse of the Bruni clan's empire was inevitable. On December 15, 2010, at the age of 29, Edyta was arrested along with 46 other key members of the organization. Later, she was sentenced to 6 years in prison for her membership in a mafia organization. The arrests marked a dramatic turning point in her life, as the once feared First Lady of the Bruni clan suddenly found herself under the relentless scrutiny of the Italian justice system. However, the downfall of her power was not immediate. In June of the following year, tragedy struck with the death of her husband, Michele Bruni. His passing triggered a violent power struggle within the organization. Edyta's former position of influence began to crumble as rival factions within the clan vied for control. Even her in-laws and extended family, who had once supported her rise, distanced themselves amid the shifting loyalties. A particularly grim episode unfolded on January 3, 2012. In a scene reminiscent of a classic Mafia film, Luca Bruni, Michele's brother and a prominent figure in the clan, was invited to a meeting by two childhood friends. The moment he got into the car, everything changed. His fate was sealed. From that point on, he disappeared without a trace. Witnesses later recalled that the moment Luca sat in the passenger seat, the circle of trust around the Bruni family began to unravel. It became increasingly clear that his disappearance was orchestrated to remove any remaining obstacles to a new order emerging within the organization. In the aftermath of these events, Edyta found herself increasingly isolated. With the death of her husband and the systematic exclusion from the criminal network by former allies, she was left with few options. The very people she had once trusted and who had built their fortunes together turned their backs on her. Faced with imminent danger from new, ruthless leaders in the organization, Edyta made a fateful decision. Rather than continue down a path of inevitable destruction, she chose to cooperate with law enforcement. In her own words, she maintained that she was never a traitor. Instead, she described those who abandoned her in her hour of need as true betrayers, fellow partners in crime who deserted her immediately after her husband's death and later murdered his brother. Today, Edyta, along with her young son, lives under the Witness Protection Program, a life defined by the choices she made to preserve what was left of her freedom and dignity. Even as Edyta's personal saga reached a critical turning point, the Mafia world in Calabria continued to evolve. The 'Ndrangheta remains a unique entity within the broader landscape of Italian organized crime. Unlike other Mafia groups, its foundations lie in an unyielding code of honor, one that enforces absolute loyalty through blood ties. Those born into the organization are expected to follow the rules without question. At the same time, the business side of the Mafia has modernized. Today's Mafia bosses are often well-educated, blending into the world of business and high finance while hiding behind legitimate fronts. Many even belong to Masonic lodges, which provide them with additional cover and legitimacy. Experts now believe that a significant portion of the Mafia's income originates from international drug trafficking, particularly the lucrative cocaine trade. The Calabrians have forged alliances with South American cartels to facilitate the flow of narcotics into Europe and beyond. Beyond drugs, the Mafia's criminal enterprises now include schemes involving public tenders, arms trafficking, and money laundering. The funds generated through these activities are often invested in real estate and legitimate businesses across Germany, Spain, southern France, and Eastern Europe, including countries such as Slovakia, the Czech Republic, and even Poland. Remarkably, while many mafiosi are adept at hiding their criminal activities behind a veneer of respectability, paying taxes, honoring financial obligations, and exercising restraint to avoid public violence, Edyta's case remains a rare instance of someone from outside this closed system who not only entered, but also reached its upper echelons. Edyta Kaczyńska's journey from Ulhówek to the dark corridors of the Calabrian Mafia is a story of both ambition and tragedy. It is a narrative of a woman who crossed national borders and shattered social expectations to become a central figure in an organization defined by secrecy, loyalty, and ruthlessness. Her story underscores the paradox of the Mafia, a system that relies on ancient traditions, blood ties, and silence to maintain power, while simultaneously adapting to modern economic and political realities. For years, Edyta played the dual role of a trusted advisor to her husband and a de facto leader in her own right. When Bruni was behind bars or otherwise indisposed, it was Edyta who ensured that the clan's operations continued smoothly. Her uncanny ability to manage complex financial transactions, coordinate covert meetings, and even arrange money transfers hidden within the everyday trappings of life made her indispensable to the organization. Yet, as the internal power struggles intensified and loyalty became a scarce commodity, she was eventually forced into a corner. Confronted by betrayal from those she had once considered allies and facing the relentless pressure of new leadership determined to reclaim the organization's control, Edyta's decision to collaborate with law enforcement was not one made lightly. Rather than embracing the traditional code of silence, she chose to expose the inner workings of a system that had once provided her with power and identity. Today, the saga of Edyta Kaczyńska serves as a stark reminder of the dangerous allure and inherent risks of the Mafia world. It is a story that traverses the borders of nations and cultures, a narrative where the personal and the criminal are inextricably linked. Edyta's rise, from a determined young woman in a sleepy Polish village to a key figure in one of Italy's most feared criminal clans, captures both the promise and the peril of a life lived on the edge of society's norms. While the Italian police eventually dismantled the Bruni clan, and Edyta now lives under the protective custody of the state, her legacy remains etched in the annals of Mafia history. It is a tale of power, intrigue, betrayal, and the ultimate quest for survival. A true testament to the fact that even those who rise to the highest echelons of crime can be brought down by the weight of their own choices.